Welcome to the Eerie Hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. They are stains upon the map, forgotten corners where reality frays and history doesn't just repeat itself, it breathes. Perhaps you've passed one, a house with vacant windows, a wood where silence holds its breath, a road that seems to stretch just a little too far into the twilight. This is the story of one such place, of the quiet pull it exerted, and the slow descent of someone who chose to listen. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share your theories below. Now, let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. She finds the house on a day that feels like late autumn, clinging desperately to winter, air sharp with the promise of frost. It sits back from the overgrown road, slumped shoulders of neglect, visible even from this distance. There is no specific reason for stopping, only a vague impulse, a turn of the wheel dictated by something other than destination. The front door hangs ajar, an invitation that feels less like welcome and more like resignation. You push it open, the wood groaning a protest that dissolves into the vast, silent emptiness inside. Dust motes dance in the few shafts of light that pierce the gloom. The house is cold, a deep, bone-aching cold that no number of coats could truly ward off. It smells of old paper, settled dust, and something else, something earthy and damp that seems to seep from the very foundations. Drawn by this scent, by the chill that originates somewhere below, you find the staircase leading down. Each step creaks its age, a slow countdown into the subterranean dark. The basement is worse. It is colder, wetter. Water stains bloom on the concrete walls like dark, spreading flowers. A thin film of standing water covers parts of the floor, reflecting the weak light from the stairs like fractured glass. This is where the smell is strongest, the scent of damp earth, turned over and left to rot, mixed with a sour, metallic tang. Your eyes adjust to the low light, scanning the debris of generations, broken furniture, discarded tools, forgotten boxes warped by humidity. And then you see it, centered in the lowest part of the floor, where the standing water is deepest, is a drain. It is old, cast iron, the grate rusted and partially clogged with silt and leaves that must have washed down through unseen cracks over years. It looks utterly ordinary, mundane in its function. Yet, as you approach, stepping carefully through the shallow water, a profound sense of unease settles. It starts subtly, a sound. A faint scraping from within the drain, like something shifting underground. Or perhaps it's the reflection in the murky water pooled around it, a momentary distortion, a ripple that doesn't correspond to any movement you made. It's gone as quickly as it appears, leaving only the still water and the solid grate. But the feeling lingers, a prickle on the back of your neck. You stare down, drawn despite the growing discomfort, near the edge of the drain. Half submerged in the water, you notice a small, dark object. It looks like wood, perhaps, or dried mud, misshapen and unidentifiable. You don't touch it. Not yet. The curiosity wars with a burgeoning, formless fear. This drain isn't just a drain. It feels like an eye watching from the earth's dark heart. The air around it feels heavier, colder than anywhere else in the basement. You take a small step back, but your gaze remains fixed. The dampness feels personal now, a cold, creeping presence that seems to rise from that single point on the floor. Welcome to the eerie hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. A house settles, they say. Old wood groans, pipes rattle. It's just the house. But you know the difference. You feel the difference in the air, thick with a stillness that isn't natural, a silence that listens back. This place has secrets pressed into its foundations, secrets that sometimes try to surface, like the drain in the corner of the basement laundry room, a simple, round grate set in concrete. Unassuming in the weak glow of the single bare bulb, it was just a drain, at first, until the sounds began. Faint, rhythmic, like a tapping from deep below, softer than a drip, harder than settling dust. You dismiss it, old house, but it doesn't stop. It persists through the quiet hours of the night, a tiny, persistent presence in the periphery of your awareness. It feels less like a house sound and more like an insistence. You find yourself standing by the drain, holding your breath, straining to hear it over the beat of your own heart. The air here is cool, damp, carrying the faint, familiar scent of old earth and something else, something metallic and sour you can't quite place. A shiver starts, not on your skin, but deep inside your bones. Why are you listening so intently? It's just a drain. But the thought doesn't bring comfort. It brings a prickle of unease, a sense that you are on the threshold of something unknown, something that perhaps shouldn't be disturbed. You feel a growing, unwelcome curiosity taking root, a strange pull towards that dark, damp corner. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe and share your theories below. Now, let's begin, but remember, once the story starts, something always follows. The sounds from the drain are no longer confined to a faint tapping. They have grown, morphing into something distinctly more active. There is a low, wet gurgle now, a sound that seems too thick for just water, like liquid struggling against a blockage of something yielding. And beneath it, or woven through it, is a soft scraping, rhythmic and deliberate, like claws on stone. It begins subtly, easily ignored at first, another oddity of the old house. But you listen. You find yourself drawn down the creaking stairs, standing in the cool, damp air, mesmerized by the sounds emanating from the grate. The metallic, sour smell you noticed before has intensified. It hangs heavy, a sickly sweet decay that clings to the back of your throat. It smells wrong, not like sewage, not like rot you'd expect from old pipes, but something fouler, something unnatural. You breathe it in, a morbid fascination overriding your repulsion, trying to identify the source, the nature of the decay. Then, the damp patches appear. Not a leak, not a trickle running down the wall. These are patches on the concrete floor near the drain. Dark, irregular shapes that weren't there yesterday. You watch them over the course of an hour, and they seem to shift, to grow imperceptibly, like spilled ink spreading on blotter paper, but slower, more deliberate. They are cold to the touch, radiating a chill that seems deeper than just temperature. They are the tangible manifestation of the decay motif, the smell given substance. You trace the edge of one with the toe of your boot, and the surface seems to shimmer faintly, almost like oil, but absorbing the light instead of reflecting it. This is no ordinary moisture. Your personal history begins to intrude, shadows rising from the past. The quiet, echoing emptiness of the house mirrors a different kind of emptiness inside you. A hollow left by a loss that still aches, a trauma that left you isolated, vulnerable. You think of keys now, constantly. The heavy, ornate key to the locked attic door you've never opened. The small, tarnished key to a music box that hasn't played in years. The drain and its growing manifestations feel like another locked door, another secret place you compulsively need to access, to understand. The obsession is a dark comfort, a distraction from the older pain, or perhaps a new way for it to surface. The initial discomfort has fractured into pervasive anxiety. Sleep is a distant memory. Every shadow seems to writhe. Every floorboard groan sounds like it comes from below. You spend hours staring at the drain, watching the damp patches expand, listening to the wet, scraping sounds. The need to know consumes you. What is down there? What is making these sounds, causing this growth? Is it the house? Is it something else? This desperate need drives you, blurring the edges of reality. Foreshadowing wraps around you like a shroud. A specific sound begins to repeat from the drain, clearer now, distinct from the scraping and gurgling. It sounds like a soft, wet thud, followed by a low, drawn-out whisper. Not words you recognize, not language, more like shapes of sound. Vowel-heavy, ending in a soft sibilance. Yes, s. It is nonsensical, yet deeply unsettling, resonating somewhere deep in your gut. A sound you feel you should understand, but can't. The recurring motif of keys feels increasingly significant. What lock does this sound fit? The growing damp patches near the drain seem to pulsate faintly under the dim light, almost as if they breathe. And you watch, mesmerized, waiting to see what shape they will take next. Something wants out. You feel it in the cold radiating from the concrete, in the air thick with that unnatural smell. What secrets does it hold? You have to know. This need, this terrible curiosity, is a key turning in a lock you never meant to find. The drain watches you watching it. And for a moment, you think the largest damp patch looks vaguely like the shape of a keyhole. The damp patches have taken a more defined form overnight. No longer just irregular splotches, they have connected, spreading across the concrete floor in an intricate, branching pattern that seems almost deliberate. From a distance, it resembles roots or veins, dark and slick under the weak light. Up close, tracing the cold edge with a fingertip, you see faint lines etched within the dampness, almost like writing or symbols, too blurred and shifting to decipher. The pattern radiates outwards from the drain, covering a larger area now, a living map of decay. It glows faintly in the dark, not with its own light, but by seeming to absorb the ambient light, making the area around it unnaturally dim. This growth is impossible, defying the laws of moisture and evaporation. It is an uncanny event unfolding in plain sight. The air tastes like copper and old earth. This vivid atmospheric detail permeates everything now. It coats your tongue, makes your teeth ache, even when you are upstairs. It's the scent of the drain, intensified, distilled. You try to mask it with air fresheners, with open windows, but it clings, a constant reminder of what is waiting below. The house itself seems to hold its breath, heavy with this metallic, sour odor. Your psychological fracture deepens into dissociation. You speak to the drain now, whispering questions into the grate, pleading for understanding. You show it the old key from the music box, holding it up like an offering, wondering if it holds a significance you've missed. Time has lost meaning. Days blend into nights spent in the basement, watching, listening. The world upstairs feels distant, irrelevant. Your obsession is absolute, a singular focus that has consumed your identity. Who were you before this? The memories are hazy, locked behind a door you can't seem to find the key to. The recurring symbolic motif of keys is everywhere. You find keys in unexpected places, tucked into pockets you haven't used in years, resting on shelves you know you cleared, even tangled in your hair. They aren't yours, not all of them. They are old, rusted, unfamiliar shapes. They appear silently, inexplicably, always after a period of intense focus on the drain. Are they offerings? Warnings? Or are they another manifestation of the drain's influence, pushing the motif from your subconscious into the physical world? You collect them, a growing pile on the floor near the expanding damp pattern, their jangle a counterpoint to the sounds from below. The scraping has become more frantic, the gurgling louder, more insistent, and the soft, wet thud is more frequent, followed by that unsettling whisper. Key. You are certain you hear the word key now, woven into the sibilance. But who is whispering it? The drain? Something within the drain? Or is it your own mind, desperately trying to make sense of the sounds, grafting meaning onto noise? This ambiguous line leaves you reeling. Is it a call, a command, or a reflection of your own fixation? The branching damp pattern shimmers again, and you feel a cold presence settling over your shoulders. Not just the chill from the floor, but something else, something that feels like a heavy cloak woven from silence and decay. The pile of keys sits near the drain, catching the dim light. They seem to watch you, waiting. The sounds from the drain have stopped their subtle hints. There is a clear, rhythmic tapping now, distinct from the earlier faint noise. It is coming from inside the grate, insistent, urgent. You crouch down, pressing your ear close, the coppery smell overwhelming. The tapping is slow, deliberate, then quickens, almost like a signal, a code. It is a central, uncanny event, impossible for mere water flow or settling pipes. Something is actively trying to get your attention, or perhaps trying to get out. The air is thick with a cloying, sweet humidity. It gathers on the walls, makes your skin feel slick and clammy. This vivid atmospheric detail is tied directly to the expanding dampness, which now covers nearly a quarter of the basement floor, the dark, veiny pattern reaching towards the stairs. It feels like the entire house is breathing in this sickening, humid air, exhaling that foul, metallic scent. The damp patches seem to pulse with the tapping from the drain, darkening slightly with each tap. Your psychological fracture has become a full break. You no longer differentiate between waking and dreaming. Memories surface unbidden, fragments of that past trauma, the sterile smell of a hospital room, the feel of a cold, small hand, a lock clicking shut. These fragments now blend with the reality of the drain, the tapping echoing the frantic beat of a heart, the damp patches resembling bruises spreading across skin. You see faces in the veiny pattern on the floor, fleeting, distorted features that vanish when you look directly. You are losing your grip on what is real, What is memory? What is something else entirely? The recurring symbolic motif of keys has become terrifying. The extra keys you found now form a scattered boundary around the edge of the damp pattern, placed there by your own hands in a trance-like state you don't fully recall. They lie inert, yet they feel charged with a silent energy. The rhythmic tapping from the drain seems to be unlocking something, not just in the physical world, but in your mind, releasing those buried memories, connecting them to the present horror. The keys feel less like objects and more like extensions of the drain's influence, guiding your actions, sealing off exits, trapping you within the unfolding decay. The whispers from the drain are louder, clearer. They are now undeniably words, strung together in fragmented, chilling phrases. Little key, opens door, come closer, unlock. This ambiguous line is both a terrifying invitation and a direct command. What door are they speaking of? The attic door? The door to your own mind? Or is it the grate itself, the barrier holding back whatever is tapping and whispering below? You tremble, a wave of both fear and desperate longing washing over you. The keys lie around the periphery, cold and silent, guarding the boundary of the ever-growing, pulsing dampness. The tapping quickens, demanding a response. You feel an overwhelming urge to reach for the grate, to try and lift it, to use one of the keys, any key, to open whatever is sealed below. The humid air is stifling, the coppery taste unbearable. Something in the drain is waiting for you to unlock it. You stand over the drain, the tapping, now a frantic drumbeat, the whispers, a chorus of sibilant urgings. The damp patches have spread further, the veiny pattern now reaching the edge of the basement door. The air is thick, heavy, the sickly sweet, metallic smell overwhelming, pressing in on you, making it hard to breathe. This is the peak of the descent. The humid air feels alive, pressing against your skin, whispering against your ears, alongside the voices from the grate. You reach down, fingers trembling, and touch the cold metal grate. It feels slick, damp, vibrating with the intensity of the tapping. This is the central uncanny event, the tangible interaction you have been driven towards. As your fingers brush the metal, a jolt, not of electricity, but of bone-deep cold, shoots up your arm. The tapping stops abruptly. Silence rushes in, vast and terrifying. But the whispers remain, echoing inside your skull now, not just from the drain. Your psychological fracture is complete. You feel your sense of self dissolving, merging with the sounds, the smells, the cold dampness. You are no longer just watching the decay. You are becoming a part of it. The line between you and the house and the drain blurs and disappears. You see the world through a hazy, distorted lens, everything tinged with that coppery decay. Your thoughts are fragmented, circling back to the trauma, the loss, which now feels intrinsically linked to the abyss below. The small, cold hand you remember is reaching from the drain, grasping for your own. The recurring symbolic motif of keys culminates here. One of the unfamiliar, rusted keys appears in your hand. You don't remember picking it up. It feels right, somehow meant for this moment. The whispers in your head seem to pulse with the key's presence. Little key, find the lock. Inside. The lock isn't on the grate. It isn't on the attic door. The lock is inside you, a mechanism keeping something contained, something the drain wants released. The key feels heavy, its teeth sharp against your palm. The final, ambiguous line is whispered not from the drain, but from your own lips, echoing the voices that now reside within you. Is this unlocked or opened? Are you unlocking something from the drain, or opening something within yourself to the drain? The distinction is lost in the haze of decay and obsession. The damp pattern on the floor seems to contract slightly, then expand again, slowly, deliberately, like a breath. The air around you is suddenly colder, and you feel a profound sense of connection to the dark space below the grate. A connection that feels both terrifying and inevitable. The key in your hand feels heavy, demanding use. You stare at the metal grate, at the dark slit between its bars, and you know that the story is not ending. It is only just beginning its next phase. You are no longer a watcher. You are a participant. The frantic tapping has ceased, and the whispers have faded back to an almost imperceptible murmur from the drain, a soft sibilance that is now less a sound and more a feeling, a vibration in the concrete under your bare feet. The overwhelming smell of copper and decay has lessened too, though a faint, sickly sweet trace still lingers in the heavy air. The immediate confrontation has passed, or perhaps shifted. The damp patches on the floor are still there, the dark, veiny pattern, fixed and unmoving, like a stain that has set, a chilling reminder of their unnatural growth. They no longer seem to pulse, but they radiate a constant, deep cold, a residue of the uncanny event that unfolded. The aftermath is quiet, but the silence is not peaceful. It is pregnant with unanswered questions, with the lingering presence of whatever stirred beneath the grate. What was tapping? What were the whispers? What did the growing patches signify? The house is still, but it feels different now, irrevocably altered, infused with the memory of the drain's activity. You feel different, too. The intense obsession has receded, leaving behind a vast, echoing emptiness within you. The psychological residue is profound. The world feels muted, unreal. The trauma that resurfaced during the drain's activity now sits heavy in your chest, twined irrevocably with the metallic smell and the shape of the damp stain. You think of the small, cold hand and the clicking lock, and now you think of the drain and the keys, seeing them as one horrifying, connected entity. The recurring motif of keys has fallen silent. The pile of old, rusted keys still lies scattered near the drain, cold and inert. They no longer seem charged with energy, but they are monuments to what happened, silent witnesses. Their final appearance is one of stillness, of quiet watchfulness. Are they guarding the drain? Or are they guarding you now that something has been unlocked or opened? The air is still and cold around the drain. The damp stain holds its shape, a map of something that shouldn't be. You feel the lingering connection, the sense of something waiting just below the surface. Quiet now, but listening. You understand, with a chilling certainty that bypasses logic, that this is not over. The drain is merely resting, and you know, deep in your bones, that if the tapping starts again, if the whispers return, they will be louder, more insistent, demanding more than just your attention. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer. Not yet. The air around the drain shifts, no longer just heavy with damp earth, but thick with a new cloying sweetness, like overripe fruit left too long in darkness. You notice it first in the periphery, a child's worn wooden block, usually tucked beneath the stairs, now sitting precisely beside the rusted grate, a tiny, deliberate placement that makes the hairs on your arms rise. It wasn't there moments ago. She stares at the block, then back at the drain. The subtle shift, a louder declaration than any sudden crash. The water standing stagnant within the drain bowl is different now. It is less a mere surface and more a window, murky and warped, but undeniably showing things not present in the basement. A flicker of pale light, like sun through a leaded window. A corner of faded wallpaper patterned with roses you've never seen in this house. And sometimes, clearer for a terrifying instant before the surface trembles and dissolves the image, a face. Not yours reflected back, but something else, indistinct shapes coalescing into fleeting profiles. Eyes that seem to hold an ancient, weary sorrow. These are not just reflections, they are echoes made visible. The whispers, too, have shed some of their formless quality. They are still fragmented, like voices caught on a dying wind, but they carry inflection, emotion, a low murmur of what might be regret, a sharp, almost desperate plea, a sound that could be sorrow or deep, bone-chilling anger. They speak in snippets of words you almost grasp, a name, a question, a phrase about being left behind, but they dissolve before you can fully understand, leaving only their chilling emotional residue. The air around the drain feels colder when they speak, and the cloying smell intensifies. The damp patches near the drain are no longer just darker concrete. They have spread outward like dark, creeping tendrils, their edges strangely defined. They possess a disturbing texture, slightly raised and slick, incorporating the visual motif of mildew and decay not just as passive dampness, but as something actively growing. There are faint, unnatural colors modeling the edges, sickly greens and bruised purples, suggesting not just water damage, but something else, something organic and wrong taking root in the basement floor. This is where fear curdles into something more corrosive. You find yourself checking doors repeatedly, not just for security, but to see if they are still there. You look at your hands, your reflection in a dusty window pane, a distorted mirror reflecting something you don't recognize behind you. Wondering if you are seeing things, if the whispers are only in your head, a manifestation of stress or exhaustion. The impossible is no longer theoretical. It is pressing against the walls of your sanity. The images in the water, the half-formed words from the drain, they contain glimmers of familiarity, like a nightmare you almost remember, a pattern on wallpaper, a particular tone of voice, a faint lingering scent, hinting at a connection you desperately do not want to acknowledge, a history seeping up from the earth itself. Perhaps the house remembers things you have forgotten, or worse, things you never knew. The cold spots are not confined to the basement now. They drift like unseen currents, pooling in corners of the living room, settling heavy on the stairs, making your breath mist in the kitchen air, even when the heat is on high. Upstairs, a phantom chill follows you from room to room. Strange smells, damp earth and something metallic begin to seep up through the floorboards, clinging to curtains, making the air upstairs thick and unpleasant. The patches of damp and mildew downstairs have spread with unsettling speed, no longer random splotches, but forming dark, venous patterns that seem to writhe across the stone, reaching tendrils towards the stairs, towards the rest of the house. There are shapes in the mildew now, disturbing suggestions of forms you refuse to name. Electronics upstairs flicker erratically when you pass near the top of the basement stairs, the television dissolving into snow, the radio spitting bursts of static. The outside world feels distant, irrelevant. You spend hours hunched over dusty books pulled from the library, poring over online archives, sifting through microfiche records of local newspapers. The investigation consumes you. Time blurs into a continuous stream of names, dates, and fragmented events tied to this property. There are mentions of strange occurrences decades ago, hushed whispers in old articles, reports of disappearances that were never fully explained. You find a cryptic note in a local historical society's online forum, a scanned page from an old journal mentioning the hum beneath the soil and the key that locks the dark. The information is scattered, incomplete, like trying to piece together a shattered mirror. Sleep is an afterthought. Food is forgotten. Your world shrinks to the glow of the screen, the rustle of old paper, the oppressive presence of the house. You are consumed by the drain, by the unanswered questions it embodies. The feeling of being watched has intensified. No longer a nagging sense, but a certainty. When you stand near the basement door, a pressure builds behind your eyes. A whisper seems to brush the edge of your hearing, just outside the threshold of comprehension. You know, with a chilling clarity that bypasses reason, that something is looking back at you from the darkness below. It is not just an empty hole, it is an aperture, and whatever is on the other side is keenly aware of you. It feels like an attempt at communication, distorted by distance or by the nature of the barrier between worlds, like a signal struggling through unbearable interference, thick with static. You wonder what it wants you to know, or perhaps what it wants from you. Does it wait for the right kind of key? This obsessive research, this complete withdrawal from everything else, is a breaking. You are tethered only to this house, this mystery, this drain. Your reflection in dusty glass looks like a stranger, hollow-eyed and pale. The patterns on the mildewed wall seem to pulse faintly in your peripheral vision. Everything leads back to the drain. The air doesn't just feel heavy now. It feels thin, like stretched skin ready to tear. You stand frozen, eyes fixed on the drain, and it no longer looks like just a hole in the floor. It pulses, a faint, rhythmic thrum that you feel more in your teeth than your ears. A low vibration resonating from the earth beneath the house. The blackness within it is absolute, deeper than any pipe could run, and it seems to draw the light from the single bare bulb overhead, pooling shadow around its rim. The sounds are louder now, not whispers or echoes, but distinct, wet sounds. A gurgling that isn't water, a sucking that isn't air. And the images, they flash behind your eyes with alarming clarity, bleeding through the thin barrier. Glimpses of shapes that writhe, of textures that are slick and wrong, of colors that don't exist in nature. It's not just passive unease anymore. It feels directed. The smell of decay is overpowering. No longer just mildew, but something sweet and cloying, like forgotten fruit left to rot in the sun, only infinitely worse. It permeates the very stone walls, the air you breathe. The basement isn't just damp and old, it's actively decaying because of the drain, the substance within it leaching outward, consuming the cellar itself. A profound sense of being watched settles over you, heavy and undeniable. Not just seen, but assessed. The feeling originates from the drain, a weightless pressure against your forehead, a pull on the soles of your feet. It wants you closer. It wants something from you. You feel the edge of your sanity fraying, the tight wire you've walked snapping under the strain. Terror is a cold wave, making you want to bolt, but then a strange, horrifying calm washes over you, a sense of inevitability, almost acceptance. What if this is just there? What if this is what's always been waiting? Then a desperate primal urge flares. You have to stop it. You have to seal it, bury it, pretend you never saw. Or maybe understand it. Look closer. See what it is that pulses and pulls. The sound from Section 3 returns, clearer now than ever. No longer a fragmented echo, but a deliberate resonance. Down. Come down. It twists the word, elongates it, a wet, sibilant invitation that chills you to the bone. It wasn't just a sound. It was a call. And it wasn't asking for help. It was promising something else entirely, something that feels like oblivion draped in terrible wonder. You take a step forward, the floor cold beneath your bare foot, the pull growing stronger, the barrier thinner still. What lies beyond the drain is no longer a question of if, but a question of when it will fully cross over. The drain is no longer a passive observer. It is a hungry mouth whispering your name. The air is quiet now. The sound has receded, swallowed by the earth, or perhaps just by your own fractured mind. You stand, or she stands, amidst the wreckage of the basement. The floor still slick with something you try not to name. The drain remains. It is silent, unmoving. It looks sealed, but not by anything you did. It looks as if the darkness itself solidified, a scab over a wound that refuses to heal properly. You touch the rough concrete wall. Dust like fine ash coats your fingertips, smelling of damp and forgotten things. The house breathes differently now. The decay isn't just on the walls, the peeling paper resembling sun-starved skin. It's settled inside you, a cold weight that sinks deeper than bone. Your reflection in the streaked pane of a basement window is thin, eyes too wide, a stranger you almost recognize. There are marks that weren't there before, faint lines like dried watercourses on your skin, tracing paths that mirror the cracks spreading across the ceiling above. What happened down there? The question is a splinter under the skin of thought. Did you break it? Did it break you? The memory is a shifting fog, moments sharp and terrible against a backdrop of absolute void. You know you didn't run. You know you stayed. And something ended. Or perhaps something merely changed its form. The house is quiet. Too quiet. The supernatural presence is gone. No longer a tangible weight pressing down. No longer a whispering dread in the corners. But its absence is a vacuum, a negative space that pulls at you. A profound emptiness, more terrifying than the fear it replaced. It's the quiet after a scream, the lingering vibration in the air that tells you sound was here. You look at your hands. They tremble sometimes. They reach for things that aren't there. The recurring motif, the symbol you clung to, the keys, they lie scattered by the cellar door, useless now. They unlock nothing. Everything is open, or everything is sealed forever. You walk through rooms you've lived in for years, but they feel foreign, slightly off-kilter, like a recurring nightmare you can't quite place. You see movement in your peripheral vision, gone when you turn your head. Is it just trauma? Or does a shadow still cling to the edges of your sight? cast by something that resides just beyond the veil of normal perception. You stayed, and now the house is quiet, but you are not. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer. Not yet.